Welcome to the Next 7 Days podcast series, where we break the season down into week-by-week segments, bringing on a new guest hunter every week that specializes in their time frame. We're starting off at September 14th and running to November 30th, covering every segment of the season, starting with early season into the October lull, into the rut and the secondary rut. So let's get ready to hunt the next 7 days. Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes, and we're coming in extra hard in Brian's ear holes. He gave me a hard time because I didn't open the podcast up like I had for the past 3 years in the last episode. So coming at you extra hard this week, Brian. Anyways, let's get into this show. This week we have Joe Miles on. We're talking October 5th through October 12th. This was the most challenging time for me to find a hunter in this series to cover these days of the year. These are very awkward days, in my opinion, unless you have some cold weather, which a lot of the Midwest is going to get this cold front coming up. So we talk a lot in this episode whether we don't have a cold front, but if you guys are on a buck that's close and this cold front's coming in as cold as it's going to get, it would be a smart time to react to that cold front and go in there and try to get a kill here in October. I'm definitely going to be hunting mornings and evenings during this cold spell this weekend coming up after this podcast is released here on Wednesday. So I know a lot of people have been messaging me really excited about this cold front. So I know a lot of bucks are going to get killed and a lot of bucks are going to get educated. It is also the youth season here, so it's definitely going to be a unique time in the woods, a lot of pressure, and there's going to be a lot of big deer that get killed. But getting into this episode, like I said, we're covering the October 5th through the 12th, and we did it kind of different in this one. Joe Miles has been very successful in this time frame in the Midwest and South Carolina, so we cover both in this episode. We cover South Carolina hunting, which is completely different down there. They're almost rutting at this time, which is insane to me. Their rut is extremely long, drawn-out process. And then we also cover Midwest. He travels to Kansas, Iowa. So we bounce back and forth between hunting kind of like a Kansas area and hunting South Carolina. But let's get into the people that make this possible. We're going to get into the show. Starting off with Exodus Outdoor Gear. If you guys don't follow Exodus on their socials, or those guys create so much whitetail content, it's actually mind-blowing how much work they put in. Their YouTube is incredible. Their podcast is awesome. I had the privilege of being on their guest this week. The one before was Don Higgins, then me, which I'm like, how can I come up behind that legend, But very blessed to be on there and chat with a good friend about whitetail hunting. Got a lot of messages. I appreciate everybody that reached out after listening to the show. But anyways, their TikTok's awesome. Their YouTube, their Instagram, everything that they have going on is incredible. And those guys put in a ton of work, not only in their YouTube and their brand, but also their cameras. They're building the best cameras on the market, best warranty, longest lasting, some of the best battery life use cameras I've ever had. And I want to touch on one thing here, the customer service. I had a Lift 2 that is right there on that 5-edge mark, and no questions asked, getting another Lift 2 sent out, utilizing that 5-year warranty on a camera. I love Lift 2s on video mode, and it crapped out on me after a little over 4 years, and they held true, and they're sending me a new cam, so I cannot say enough about those Exodus boys. Second is Afflictor broadheads. I know I said I was shooting the K2, but I had the plan of shooting some does, and I was like, man, I want to try this hybrid EXT, this 1.5 inch mechanical. And I started shooting it, and it was flying really, really good, and it's got a little bit more cut diameter, so I was like, I'm going to run these. So I'm running both. They're both in my quiver. They're both shooting true, just fill point accurate. So I'm going to use the 1.5 inch first. I got 3 of those, and then I'm going to go to the K2s. So I'm going to put down some does, and kind of whatever arrow I feel like grabbing out of the quiver is what I'm going to be shooting. But it's a mix of the Afflictor Hybrid and the Afflictor K2s. So a fixed and mechanical that are both flying fill point accurate. But I know I told Had a small glitch there in the audio. Luckily, I caught it before I released it. Anyways, I'm shooting the Hybrid EXT first, then I'm going to switch to the K2. Next on the list is 330archery.com. If you're out there, you're just getting your bow out, you notice you need a new string, you need someone to get a fast turnaround, that 330archery.com will get you the fastest turnaround on a bowstring and get you out there in the whitetail woods. All right, guys, so let's get into this episode. All right, we got Joe Miles on tonight. How you doing tonight, brother?
Man, I'm doing well. I hope you are.
I'm doing awesome. Doing great because I finally talking to you. I appreciate you kind of lining this up on short notice. Out of all the weeks of the season, this was the hardest to find someone to cover. And like I mentioned before, I had great respect for you and what you've done throughout the many years of creating content and killing bucks. So I knew that you'd have some stuff to talk about October 5th through the 12th. But just go ahead and give a brief introduction of who you are, and then we'll get right into the good stuff.
Yeah, man. So Joe Miles, born and raised in South Carolina, live in Columbia, South Carolina. Have basically been chasing the deer here since I was 5 years old. My dad is a big whitetail hunter, and he kind of got me started. Then started hunting in the Midwest some, and kind of got addicted to y'all's big Midwestern bucks, and so grew up really again hunting these swamps in South Carolina, and it's tough hunting here. We have a season that comes in August 15th. It goes to January 1st. The rifle season starts then. You can shoot 5 bucks a year, pretty much unlimited does. You can bait, you can run them with dogs. It's a tough place to bow hunt, but it does, in the same token, it sharpens your skills, and you're forced to learn some woodsmanship and how to find mature bucks in environments like that. So it's a bit of a curse and a blessing in the same token, and I was able to, kind of grow my passion of whitetail hunting into a business. And 3 years ago, started ICO Gear Camouflage, and it's grown every year. And this year's it started out incredible, and just really looking forward to that. And then our season's already started. I've been fortunate this year. I've taken 2 bucks in South Carolina, and then I took a really big mule deer up in Alberta about last week or about 10 days ago. So it's been a good start to the season.
Yeah, having a hell of a start to the season. But yeah, huge success for you and your camo brand there. I remember we had you on like right when you were starting it up, back 3 years ago. It's the last time that we actually had you on and talked, and we had you on, and we covered just becoming a better whitetail hunter, and that was right when you were launching that brand. So it's awesome to see the start of it and then see how well you've done over the past few years. So props to that, man.
And thank you. Yeah, we're really, excited about it. I think it has really helped some guys, and I know this isn't what we're here to talk about tonight, but, we just to real briefly, we saw a gap between what the mountain hunting crowd was able to wear and what the whitetail guy had. And we just took that technology and put a really good camo pattern and are selling it customer direct. So it's it's a break on the pocketbook, but you still get some really good high quality gear, and the camo pattern, in our opinion, and a lot of guys' opinion, is kind of unmatched for us tree stand bow hunters. So yeah, we're super pumped about it.
Yeah, I love that post of the owl with the camo pattern behind it. And I'm like, man, that's like right on the money, man. Because I know kind of you told me the story, kind of the start of it, and that's how you thought up the camo pattern. But yeah, I see it all the time, and I follow Instagram, pretty heavily in the outdoor space since I have this, and I see you on there all the time, and I'm thinking, go Joe, go, man, you're smashing it right now. So
we are working hard, that is for sure. We get started about 4:30 in the morning and go until about 10 o'clock at night. So any business is tough and it's very competitive, but we love it and appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know that you're a South Carolina boy. You do travel to the Midwest some. So we're kind of going to double dip. This is going to be for a little bit for the Midwestern guys, but we're going to hit an episode kind of for the Southern guys here a little bit. So during that October 5th to October 12th time frame, starting off in South Carolina, what are the bucks doing at this time of the year?
Man, so our pre-rut will be wide open then. we're recording this obviously a few days before the 5th. And our bucks are already, I've got lots of scrapes open. I've got some 4-year-olds that are daylighting some. And I'm actually going to be hunting again, probably Friday and Saturday afternoon over some scrapes, because we're getting a cold front in, if you can believe it. We're going to get down to 60 degrees in the morning, and it's only going to get up to 78. So that's quite a cold front for us. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on then. And then, where I hunt on the Congaree River, by the 15th, 18th of October, breeding will have already started. So the 5th through the 12th, if I wanted to equate it to something, it's kind of that last week of October in the Midwest. I mean, it can be really, really good then.
It's crazy how different it is.
It is weather dependent. If we get a real, if it warms back up and gets back into the upper 90s, obviously just like if in October it gets up in the Midwest to the 90s, it can kind of shut things down or force it into the night. But if we have decent weather, man, it's rolling then.
I went down there for vacation to the beach, and that's the last thing you're thinking when you're driving through South Carolina is whitetails. But it's like you're saying before we started, it's a different. You got a different timber down there. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But
it is tough, man, because it's big swamp, hardwood, and pine and cut over. It go it would, if you just flipped Illinois over and you put your funnels and woodlots, called those fields, and then all your ag fields were timber. That's in swamp. That's basically what we have.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So kicking back to the Midwestern time, that October 5th through the 12th, like you said, I know you've traveled a ton. This is probably one of the worst times to travel to the Midwest, in my opinion. But in your opinion, what are the bucks doing in that time frame in the Midwest?
Yeah, man. So my experience, and you live in there, you have a real good finger on that pulse as well. But my experience is that time of year, obviously they've shed their velvet, they've gotten out of their bachelor groups, they've moved to kind of where they're gonna their winter rut range, if you will. But man, they're pretty much nocturnal. And let's talk about mature bucks here. The 5, 6, 7-year-old bucks. They're going to be super nocturnal. But man, I never leave any stone unturned. If the season is in, like I've got a place in Kansas that's got a really big deer. You and I, before we got started, we're talking about some pretty impressive bucks, and this buck falls right in that category. And I've got cameras right now where he's going to end up in the end of October, 1st of November, and they're kind of my rut spots. But I've got 3 or 4 cameras out on some ag and some areas that with some acorns and stuff that he could pop. And man, if he was to daylight, then I would definitely make a move on him. So I think that's really. For Midwest, I am absolutely not going to be hunting out there unless my cameras tell me something completely different than normal. But normally that time of year, man, I'm not going to burn anything out. I'm not going to hunt out there. I'm just staying out. No, as Don Higgins always says, no human intrusion whatsoever. Let everything relax. But again, season's in. No stone left unturned. So I'm going to have some cameras out, on traditional feed areas. And if he does pop, I absolutely will make a move on him.
I agree too. It's kind of it's a hard time, but if you got something going, you got to act on it and risk that time period. But going on to the next question here, going back to South Carolina, what is your perfect setup during this week? Kind of the area, the wind, the temp. If you could pick the perfect day, perfect area to hunt, what would it be?
Yep, it would. So here funnels are really hard to find. But you find like ditch crossings, creek crossings, elbows in the river. So I would want sometimes some fence crossings. I would want a funnel, a tight pinch point like that's leading from bedding to food, whether that be acorns, pawpaws, muscadines, or even food plots. And I would like a lot of scrapes, on one side or the other of that pinch, because they're going to be hitting those scrapes, and that would just be a absolute perfect storm. And if I could get 3 to 5 mile an hour winds, consistent winds, and I could get 5 to 10 degrees cooler than normal, I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. I would be ready to go.
I'd never even heard of a pawpaw until I think it was TikTok. Someone was post a video about them, and they were picking them and eating them themselves. And
Yeah,
I was like, "What is a pawpaw?" And I watched the video, and I'm like, "That just blew me away. That I didn't even know that those existed."
yeah, and a lot of guys say that they're toxic to deer and deer won't eat them. But I have actually the buck I shot a big. Most of your listeners are going to laugh at this. I shot a big 6-point opening afternoon, and he was actually coming to a pawpaw tree to eat. So I've seen him eat that with my own eyeballs. So I know they do it.
Yeah, I knew that this lady that was showing us there, she was eating them, and I was like, I've never even heard of it or knew what they were, but crazy what you can learn. And then I didn't even think after I watched that video that would be a tactic to deer hunt, but I'm sure it's a soft mass to them. It's something they
Oh
can
yeah.
eat and get in. So going into your perfect scenario for the Midwest, what would that be?
Ooh, for 5 through 12.
Yeah, let's go with your Kansas buck. What's the perfect scenario for you that 5 through 12 for this Kansas buck you got?
Okay, so he doesn't actually bed on the property that I hunt on. He beds on a neighbor. Then I don't think the neighbor allows any hunting. I'm actually going to explore that a little more. What's the old saying? I don't want to hunt every property. I just want to hunt the property next to mine.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to explore that a little bit. But a perfect storm, again, I've got my camera set up. There are some beans out there. Obviously there'll be some cut corn. If I had some cameras on there and he was coming out of the neighbors, there are a couple field edges that I could hunt. And the only way I would do it is if my ingress and egress were absolutely bulletproof. Like there's a creek I can drop into to get in and out, and they would, because I would be so delicate, and it would have to be like I got 4 afternoons in a row, which is pretty much, I mean, that's just probably not going to happen. But several afternoons in a row of him coming out of this food source in a real pattern, and then my ingress and egress would have to be bulletproof to get in there, and I would only hunt it in the afternoons. I say that there's exceptions to every rule. If he was feeding way off and coming back into the neighbors and was tripping that camera going back in, but again, I'm going to be super, super cautious and not aggressive at all. And if that means going all the way to Kansas and, having to sit in the truck for 4 or 5 days, that's the discipline that it would take. So that would be, be an unusual circumstance to get on. I don't see, and I'm sure you're the same, it does happen every year. Bucks get killed on opening day in Illinois, but you just don't see a lot of those big 5, 6, 7-year-old bucks hitting the ground, the first 2 weeks of October. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I haven't had. We killed a buck opening evening last year. That was an older class deer on public. But other than that, I haven't killed. I killed one on October 7th. That was a 3-year-old deer. But the older class deer, it takes that first cold front after October 15th to really get them like to where they're daylight at all. It seems like you got maybe a few days that, like you said, the first of the year there before the pressure comes, and then they just know that it's
Yep.
it's a no-fly zone in the daylight. But there's people that get it done, like you said. But I like what you said there for this time frame. If you do think that you have a setup where you can kill a deer, you got to make sure that access is perfect to get in and get out. And if you're hunting on a field edge, that's kind of a hard thing to do. The exit, when the deer are going to be in the field, you got to walk by the field to get out. So that is something that you really need to think about at this time of year.
Yeah, have a farmer bump for you, have a buddy bump for you with a truck. But again, it would have to be one and done, automatic, because you're about to screw up something that can be really, really good in just 14 days.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so it's just, it would have to be absolutely slam dunk perfect, because you go in there and you know, he's coming out and you blow out 3 or 4 does or whatever. And then, man, the game changes on those older age class deer.
Mm-hmm. I was actually watching Bill Winke. He started, producing content again, and he had this topic where he was using an RC car to clear the field before he was getting down. And
Genius.
I'm like, all the big buck killers that have been doing it forever got some tactic that I don't tell anybody. Bill Winke is taking out a power RC car out there and scaring deer off the field.
It probably had like a coyote mount on top of it.
It was just a car he was like driving at the deer, and it was scaring him. But I was like, this is something you never seen, never heard of. But that's what you gotta, this time of year especially, you gotta be foolproof, and I guess that's one way to do it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to put some batteries in the kid's Shark RC car, get it out there.
Chase them around with a drone and run them out in the field.
Yeah, something. But getting into some fun would you rathers. This first one I stole from my buddies at Last Breath. Kill your target buck this year. So say you're going to kill your Kansas buck, or I write you a $20,000 check right now this year, and you can't hunt at all. What are you going to do?
I think we all know the answer to that.
Yeah, I know. For a guy like me, I'm like, as long as my wife didn't know about the $20,000 check, I'm like, you can't tell anybody, but I'm hunting.
Right, yeah, buddy. Me too. Yeah, 100%. No questions asked. I mean, we could add some zeros to that 20, and it's still. I mean, it just, you know, for guys like us, man, it's what we live for, and money is definitely important. But man, it just, to kill those world class deer, you can't put a price on that in my mind.
For sure. So, going on to the second one here. Kill 2 bucks in South Carolina or 1 buck from the Midwest.
1 buck from the Midwest. I am addicted to large antlers.
Yeah, I know.
We don't get deer.
I almost went down to South Carolina this year for the rifle season. Last Breath was gonna, take or send me to an outfitter down there just to get some content, and a lot of those guys they're big deer hunters. I consider myself a big deer hunter, but I also like to kill deer. So I was like, well, that'd be a great time. Go down there, experience something I never had done. But I started coaching my kids' football team, and it was a conflict on time on the weekends and stuff, so wasn't able to make it happen. But I was kind of excited to go down there and hunt that rifle season, because it seems kind of radical that you can hunt that early with a rifle.
Oh, yeah.
And,
well, you can velvet hunt with a rifle.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go down there for, was velvet hunt, rifle, baiting. I'm like, this just seems radical to me, and but like they were saying, 115-inch deer is a big deer, but I would have been happy to pull the trigger on a velvet buck just to, like I said, just to get the experience. But conflict with the kids' football team, I wasn't able to make it happen. But I would take 1 big Midwestern buck over 2 South Carolina deer.
No question about it. They're fun to hunt, and I love my home state, and have cut my teeth here and learned a ton about deer hunting here. But still, a big Illinois, Kansas, those just wow. That's just a whole, a 280, 300 pound. Ooh, that just, I'm getting fired up, man.
Yeah. All right, last one here, and then we'll get back in the content. I'm going to switch it up from what I sent you, because I'm going to make it harder here. One big piece of property that you own, or 5 small pieces of property that you have permission on.
So it's funny that this is one of the questions, because Don Higgins and I were talking about this yesterday morning, the exact same thing. I have gone 50 different ways on this, back and forth, own a big property, manage the heck out of it, own no properties and have permission spots or leases. And I tell you, man, I am graduating towards the own absolutely nothing, lease absolutely nothing, put all of my efforts and resources into trying to locate a really world-class buck one a year, and then trying to get permission to hunt him. I think if that you still have to go back to. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being long-winded here,
Oh
but
no, that's perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
you have to go back to what your goals are. And I'm just, my personal goals are to kill world class deer. Something over 170 typical, something 190ish non-typical. That's kind of, and those deer are pretty few and far between. And if you put all your eggs into one basket, you own a 400 or 500 acre farm in Illinois, you get EHD, you don't have one on there that year, a horrible neighbor moves in, whatever it may be, you can't be nimble. The other approach, having 5, 6, 7, 8 different spots you want to go, you could have something going, a resource in Ohio, in Western Kentucky, in Illinois, in Iowa, in Missouri. You could cover a lot of different ground trying to locate a giant buck. And to me, that tends to be the way that I'm leaning. I do own a very small farm, or half of a very small farm in Kansas with a buddy. That's the only property that I own. Everything else is leases and permission spots. So yeah, in a perfect world, yeah, I would own a 400 acre farm that was managed to the hilt, but then also try and have permission spots as well. But the question was one or the other, and I would definitely go with the lease or permission spots over owning one big farm.
I like that a lot. I almost bought a small piece here. I actually put an offer in on one, and they denied it. And then I was going to buy a second one, and I ended up doing. I had another baby girl, my 4th kid. So instead
Good
of
for you.
number 4, so I put a home edition on instead of buying the piece of property.
Now you do know how that happens. How those kids come along.
I just went to a doctor's appointment to fix it. He finally told me what I got to do to make it not happen. He said, so when do you want to schedule? I'm like, okay, anytime after November, I'm good. And he's like, why is that? I'm like, you're gonna laugh at me, but I won't be done deer hunting, but like the hardcore stuff will be kind of slowing down.
Right.
And he's like, oh, okay, yeah. You could tell he'd never hunted anything in his whole entire life, doctor. And I'm like, he's like, oh, is it work related? I'm like, no, that's just when I'm done hunting, not done hunting, but I'm done going, 14, 15 days straight November there. Right. And then gun season. And I said, I got to have all my parts for that. I got to be fresh in the game, ready to go.
Yes, sir. Completely right.
So,
Absolutely.
But yeah, I like that, man. And I actually picked up, I asked this guy for 8 years if I could hunt his piece, and he finally let me hunt it this year. And it's gigantic, and it's so crazy to have a piece. You just open up a piece, and it's like he has like 5 or 6 different little properties all spread out in different areas, and I can hunt them all.
That's
and just
awesome.
The amount of different bucks that you have to find and hunt, and the joy of figuring out a piece of property is, I think, why I like deer hunting the most. So if I owned a piece, you would eventually figure that property out to a T of, okay, this is how I'm going to kill this buck, or this is how I'm going to hunt this property so I don't spook this buck. And it would be fun hunting the deer, but it would kind of get routine. It's like Bill Winke, he said that he killed 8 or 10 bucks out of the same food plot, out of the same blind, over the years. And it would be fun, but it wouldn't be like, okay, I got this new lease in Kansas, I got to figure it out, or I got this new property in Illinois, here we go, we got to figure it out. And the chance of a giant deer being on your property that you're growing, it's doable if you, like you said, if you have the right neighbors. But the chance of you finding one with 15 different properties, that's way higher.
Yeah, without a doubt, and I think guys that are obsessed with big, giant, mature deer, they are dedicated to the process. The process of finding them, finding the properties, getting permission, figuring them out. And again, reiterating what you're saying, not getting bored necessarily, but it loses some of the luster if you're just repeating the same thing over and over and over again on the same property.
Mm-hmm.
The process, it is universal. You talk to any of the really big buck killers, they love the process as much as they love, pulling their release back and sending an arrow. It's universal, man. All the guys that get it done year in and year out, they are addicted to the process.
I agree 100%. So, getting back into the content here, let's go back down to South Carolina. What is your opinion on morning hunts, October 5th through the 12th? And if you do hunt any mornings, what's it take to get you out there?
Yeah, I'm a huge afternoon guy until probably right after the 15th of October here. But I do have two spots that one of them is a little 40-acre in-town spot I have permission to hunt on, and it is ideal for mornings. And it's just a little funnel that comes out of some ag up into some city deer type thing. And it is set up for a morning spot regardless of when it is, because it's a place that drops down. You're up on a hill and it drops way down into a swamp, and the thermals in the afternoons when it starts to cool off will drop right back into where the deer are coming from. So it's really a morning only spot. And so, yes, I would hunt that spot in the mornings, and it's got really, really good ingress and egress. I come in out of a neighborhood right into the stand, and I come right back out, and they never knew I was there. So that's a spot that would be mornings. And, I've obviously got cameras in there. I've got text cameras in there. And, as soon as some deer start daylighting through there in the mornings, I'll get in there and hunt, and I expect that to happen, in that 5th through the 12th time frame. I've got permission on some bigger properties, and most all of that during because the getting in and getting out is not as easy. It's not as bulletproof. And most of those places, that's going to be afternoons only. But just because the mornings, most of the deer are already back to bed, and, I just don't want to burn it up too early.
I agree. Going to the Midwest, that time frame in the morning, I'm sure it's some of the same thing. It's like for me, it's depending on access. If you think you can get in there and get out, and you got something that's telling you to get in there, get in there. But what's your opinion there?
Yeah, I second that 100%. I mean, it would have to be an extremely rare, super unusual event for me to hunt, really any part of early October in the mornings, just because I know I'm, 14, 15 days away from it getting really, really good. So it would have to be something I won't say never, but 99.9% of the time, afternoons only.
All right, getting to the last topic, and my favorite one is if you could tell someone one thing that's in South Carolina or in that area that you think could help them improve their success during this time, what would that be?
Really, the main thing that I would tell guys is we have such a. I was talking to a guy this morning that hunts near me. That he's like, man, I want you to come to my property. I'm seeing your post and some of your trail camera pictures. I'm just right down the river from you. I don't get it, and it's the mentality of most of the guys in South Carolina. It's a food plot, it's a tower stand, it's a corn feeder, and it's just go hunt when I can. What my and the deer, especially the mature bucks, they know that, and they're either going to avoid those food plots and feeders, or they're going to hit them at night, when you can't hunt. So what I would tell guys to do is when the season is over, go find those pinch points. They're there, the edges of the cutovers and the hardwoods, the creek crossings, the bows like I talked about earlier in the river that force them a certain way. Those pinch points are absolute money. And then during the October 5th through the 12th, October 5th through the 15th. Go into those spots where those funnels are, and they're going to be scrapes on one side or the other, and either make some mock scrapes, open up some scrapes, some older scrapes, get them started, get some cameras in there, and figure out your ingress and egress, which is we talk about that all the time. But that as you know, and a lot of guys listening know that's one of the most important things. But that would be my thing, is that guys don't think they're pinches and funnels in our big woods, and there are. There really are, but you have to go find them in January and February, and then you've just completely changed the game and elevated, and your success is going to go through the roof because people don't do it. They just don't do it because it's corn piles, tower stands, and food plots, and that's how 99% of the people here hunt.
Yeah, I think that's how I have a lot of friends that hunt the South that I'm in a Snapchat group, and that's kind of the way they hunt and how they go about things. But I think since you've been to the Midwest and you've been to the non-bait states and you've seen how those pinches can work, I think maybe that's why you're so dead set on like, hey, man, this can still work here. There's still deer. And down there, it probably works even better because no one else is doing it besides you, you know?
Man, it's so funny. I wish I had a documentary on the hunt club that I joined. It's 12 members, all rifle hunters. I'm the lonely bow hunter. And when I got there, they showed me the 22 tower stands and food plots that everybody hunted. And I was looking at the map, and there was a cutover with a creek that kind of ran through the cutover. And here, for erosion, we can't cut the hardwoods or the trees within, there has to be like a 50-yard gap on each side of any creek. And so I'm looking at this T-junction running through this cutover, and I was like, does anybody, what's the rules in like these cutovers? They said, oh no, you're welcome to hunt all that. And man, it was like a kid in a candy store. I walked in there, and there were scrapes and rubs up and down that T-junction through that cutover. And the first 3 years I was a member of that club, I killed a buck every single year in that T-junction of that cutover, coming in on morning hunts. But it was, after like October 15th, and it was just unbelievable. They'd never been hunted. And they come through there so relaxed, not a care in the world, never had a clue I was in the world. So it was just something else. And I guess that would be the advice, is to get off the food plots, get off the corn piles, and you can kind of be amazed at what you can find in just a natural deer setting.
All right, so getting to the Midwest, if you could tell them something that you think they could benefit their success this time of year, what would it be?
The October 5th through the 12th time frame?
Yep.
Don't hunt. Stay out of there.
That's exactly what I was kind of thinking. Like, if you go in there, burn up some public somewhere or something. Don't hunt your good stuff right now.
Yeah, man. If you've got an itching to go, I don't know what the rules are on does and that sort of thing, but if you've got a itch to go opening day, yeah, man, go grab some public. Go to some spot that you can get permission on to shoot a doe. Get that bug out of your system. But man, stay away from your money spots and just be disciplined.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us tonight. Like I said, huge respect for what you've done for the industry and for all the content that you created through the years. It's definitely made me a bit better hunter. I followed you for a long time, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and let's do it again soon, and good luck to you on your big deer. I hope you get him, and I'm expecting a picture as soon as you knock him down.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode with Joe Miles. Always a good guest to have on. Super successful whitetail hunter. Like I said, this was a little different episode, hitting South Carolina and hitting the Midwest. He said don't burn those spots up, and I agree unless we got a cold front like we got coming. If you got a buck that's close and you don't mind throwing something at him, maybe burn him for a little bit, but definitely could kill him here in early October. So don't miss this cold front coming up. But if it heats up, take your time on those spots. Make sure you got good exit routes, and don't burn those spots early when you could kill there later. Like always, we love you. Appreciate tuning in all the way to the end. If you would leave a review, if you haven't, that would be awesome on iTunes or Spotify. Leave a review. Let me know what you think of the show. Always do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out until we're coming in your ear holes next Wednesday with the next episode of the Next 7 Days series.